Everyone and their mother has a handheld gaming PC at this point, and companies are no exception. The MSI Claw is the latest wrestler in the ring, but staying true to the console type's very short legacy of like a couple of years. Has it been like 2 years? Was it 2 years or 3 years? Plus, I don't really count the Steam Deck because it's in its own league with more games optimized for it, etc, etc. The ROG Ally has been serving us faithfully, being the most stable so far. The Lenovo Legion Go, which is younger than the Ally, still has some rough edges to smoothen out. And now the MSI Claw, everyone has a lot to say about it, and it's literally following the trend of all other handheld PCs where the start is super rocky and it gets better over time. It doesn't matter what review you watch because honestly the ones that count are way down the line when this gets updated and is hopefully on more equal ground with the rest, which will likely not be the case, of course. At that point, it's down to which device ergonomics you prefer, how many buttons you need, and preference for either Intel or AMD, but that's all another conversation to be had. To be honest, I am a little frustrated because a lot of these handheld PCs have so much potential, but come out half-baked like they're still in alpha, and that's how it feels like getting the MSI Claw right out of the gate. I held out the review for the MSI Claw for a good while because I wanted to see how much time it would take to roll out updates to hopefully fix whatever is going on with this console, but still no dice because for some weird reason, this runs better unplugged than it does plugged in, which we'll get into later on. Really quick rundown on specs for this. It runs an Intel Core i7 for its CPU, Intel Arc for its GPU and NPU. This has 16 gigs of RAM that can go up to 32, 1 TB of storage, a 6 cell 53 Wh battery, and everything plays out on a 7-inch Full HD 120Hz IPS level touchscreen display. It has Hall effect triggers and sticks which feel alright to play around with, but what bothered me the most was the right and left buttons, as in the ones on top here, because they're pretty hard to press down on. For modern games, it won't be much of an issue, but for retro gamers out there, or just games in general that rely on RB and LB, you're not in for a good time because they don't allow for rapid input. The buttons over here don't wobble as much as the Ally, and the D-pad is fine, though it's a bit sensitive and stiff, which is kind of weird. And there isn't much of a click, so by feel, I wouldn't be able to know if the direction I hit registered. So it's not exactly the best. I still get a better feel with the Ally and the Legion Go coming in second. And honestly, it just... Yeah, I still prefer the Ally. Ergonomics wise, this goes up right next to the Ally and may actually eke out a bit further in front of the Ally. The Claw is just slightly bigger, which is perfect for me because I do have big hands, and having the macro buttons be just slightly closer in improves my experience that much more. It's comfortable in hand, it's not oversized like the Legion Go, though it's big because it's banking on you to remove the controllers and play with this on the table. The Claw is at a good weight and it feels good in hand, which hurts me quite a bit with what I'm going to say next, right after this message from Secretlab.
Here at Geek Culture, we've tested plenty of chairs, but Secretlab gaming chairs remain one of our favorites. Whether it's for work or play, they feel great to lean back against, with their ergonomic features offering support for the whole body, from the head and back to the arms, and even something for your butt. This mix of form and function helps the Titan Evo 2022 deliver the best seating experience like no other. For more information, check out secretlab.co.
Alright, so here's the software builds we're on right now. Intel graphics driver is 31.01015333. Intel MPU is at 31.01001688. The MSI Center was updated on the 28th of March, and we're currently at Windows 11 version 23H2 with all the companion updates, and I tested it out again before the shoot, and yeah, everything still rings true. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate it, but there's so many things that MSI has done right, but in equal proportion also wrong, and that leads me into performance. I'm not sure if it's an Intel chip thing or if it's just the make of the console, but it runs only okay-ish currently, even with it being updated to the latest patch on all that. Retro and older games obviously would not have any issues-ish, depending on how you see it. I mean, with the buttons and everything, that's a big thing for y'all. But running Cyberpunk 2077 on this thing has been a jarring experience, which then leads into the fact that this, for some reason, does not run better when plugged into. What I found out is that in order to curb that, is that you would need to disable certain programs that Windows has in the background that deems those programs priorities or something along those lines, which for people like you and me would be fine, but like for the less initiated or flat out uninitiated, they'd be wondering why this isn't like the other consoles that play as intended plugged in or, you know, just out of the box, which makes it even more frustrating for a lot of people out there. Hi, Future's in here. I am editing the video, and then I kind of realized that after the update, playing Cyberpunk plugged in is slightly more stable compared to being plugged out, as you'll see in this part that's coming up here. It doesn't make a huge difference, honestly. I mean, it does show here that unplugged plays slightly worse than plugged in now, but just like slightly. But like, either way, it's still kind of unplayable on all settings. So yeah, go figure. Playing Cyberpunk plugged in on performance mode and setting everything to the lowest, the frame rate jumps are pretty drastic, from 44 to 59 to 29, and only a few moments of it being stable, around like 33 to 35. Plugged out with the same settings, the jumps aren't as drastic, around 29 to 32, but little drastic drops from say 32 down to 25 in an instant once in a while. I set it to the Steam Deck setting as well, and it went just as well as my previous attempt. It's still janky. I tried playing Helldivers 2 on this, which works wonderfully on the Legion Go and amazing on the Ally, but it does not on this. I tried Armored Core 6, and honestly, out of the 3 games, this played the most decent. Hades and older games like Spec Ops: The Line, which I've cranked out to like the highest settings possible, play smooth both plugged and unplugged, so there are no issues there. However, for the slightly more recent games, that's where my main concern is at. But at the same time, it's just a whole thing, you know, where we don't really want to play older games for the most part. I mean, it's fun to play Skyrim on a train or every once in a while. I mean, I do want to get my Helldivers 2 kick when I'm overseas. I just don't see that happening. Right now, at least. The next thing that irked me is that the keyboard doesn't come up when needed. Instead, you need to open up the MSI menu by hitting the button on the side and hit the keyboard option in order to bring it up, and it's just a little annoying. There are many ways to look at this. I know there isn't much for these companies to reference when it comes to making these handheld PCs, and that's fair because it's still very new and will take time to get it right. But like the state of the gaming industry, I wish they didn't sell these things half-baked, because these things are not cheap at all. They really do take quite a bit of your salary. I mean, especially if you're like an intern, or you know, it's expensive. It's like $900 to what? I understand the need to get a foot in the door and all that, yes, but why isn't anyone putting their best foot forward at this point of time? I mean, come on. It just doesn't make sense that whenever these consoles come out, it's not on the same level as the Ally or even better out the gate, which brings me back to the Claw. I like its design, its look, how it feels, but it needs more work before I would consider buying it. I would love to wait out a couple more months and see how much it improves, because that's the thing. These handheld PCs will always improve over time with updates. I really want to like this, but the only thing holding me back is exactly what's holding it back. It's the first handheld PC using an Intel chip instead of AMD, and it may not be totally MSI's fault, but Intel needs more work when implementing their chips into these. Anyway, if you have any questions about the MSI Claw, let me know in the comment section down below, and what you think on the state of this side of the tech industry. If you like what's going on, or you know, just address your gripes, I'd love to hear from every one of you. Follow us on all of our socials right here to keep up to date with everything we do. We post up stuff like every day, and if you like what you're watching, maybe hit the like and subscribe to us. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. And yeah, that's really about it. So this has been Zin, and I'll catch you on the next one.